Hi there, welcome to Dead End Street. I'm Al. We are now heading into 1986 in our top 25 albums of the year series. Um, Another great year, and I know at the end of the 1985 video, I mentioned how I still wasn't sure how I was going to rank the top three because the top three are three of my favorite albums of all time, and they so happen to be in the same year. So we'll get to that in a minute. But and a very I didn't remember 86 being this heavy and great album. So I'm gonna have to do a real quick also rans, like a real quick mention, honorable mentions, because there's just so many and there's so many I had to leave off. So real quick. Um The Pretenders Get Close, Smithereens, especially for you, which is a great record. David Sylvian, Gone to Earth, Felt, the 17th Century, Iggy Pop, Blah Blah Blah, Big Country, The Seer, Red Lurie, Yellow Lurie, Paint Your Wagon, Gene Loves Jezebel, Discover, TSOL, Revenge, and The Bolshoi Friends. Really wanted to get that one on there and wanted to talk about it, but it's not a top 25, so that's as far as I'm going to go with it. So, leading off here, and number 25 is going to be Blood and Chocolate by Elvis Costello. Um, this record has a very dry, raw, direct production quality that was absent on most records in the 80s. And it was very refreshing at the time. It gives the album a very timeless feel, even 38 years on. Its dryness really showcases Elvis's voice. The epic I Want You and the arrangement of Poor Napoleon are worth the price of admission alone. So, number 24 is going to be Life's Rich Pageant by R.E.M. So, I know the last couple of R.E.M. albums have missed, but I wanted to make sure I got this one on here because I still do kind of like the IRS era REM. For a while, I just kind of poo-pooed it. I was just kind of sick of REM because if you grew up in the 90s, if you were in college in the 90s, then you just got beat over the head with REM. But those IRS records are still very good records. So for the recording of this record, REM turns it up a bit louder, hits the drums a bit harder, and channel their inner Patti Smith group. Begin to Begin is probably their best album opener these days. Fall on Me and What If We Give It Away are all some of I think REM's greatest songs. So number 23 is going to be Husker Du with Candy Apple Gray. So on this album, Husker Du signs with Warner, finally get the bigger budget to record. Um, they step up their songwriting. Grant's tracks are all trademark Grant. Like I Don't Want to Know If You're Lonely, Sorry Somehow, um, No Promise I Have Made, are all classic Grant. But on this album, I think Bob steps up his songwriting because for the most part, his were usually more the aggressive songs. And I think he gets more of like a human emotion aspect to his music here. I don't know for sure. Too Far Down are a little bit more accessible. Is the album more accessible? Yes, but I think that's a good thing for Husker Du. It's a good album. So number 22 is going to be Peter Gabriel with So. This record was the apex of Peter Gabriel's solo career and the apex of his commercial appeal. It may not be his most daring work. I mean, it's not Security or Melt or anything like that, but it definitely contains some of his best songwriting. I mean, yes, Sledgehammer and Big Time, but Sledgehammer and Big Time are probably the two worst songs in the album, let's be honest. Red Rain, Mercy Street, and In Your Eyes are probably in the top 10 of his best solo tracks. So, and those songs, no matter how many times I hear them, still turn it up. Number 21 is going to be the self-titled album by Throwing Muses. Throwing Muses were so unique for their time. They really were. It would be now. The arrangements and melodies on this record are truly unlike any other band. And that's not even mentioning the excellent musicianship on this album. Call Me Green and Soul Soldier are great representations of the record. But if you haven't heard this album, seriously, go check it out. I mean, it's great stuff. Number 20 is going to be Skylarking by XTC. So after a couple of good albums, but albums that were lackluster chart entries, shall we say, the label started pushing XTC to work with a big name producer, which I'm sure they're for, is to roll their eyes. But so, and the band ended up going with Todd Rundgren. And it's been no secret over the years that the headbutting between Todd and Andy Partridge is now legendary. But guess what? So is the album. The record is worth whatever headaches it was that they went through to make it. Much of this record to me has always kind of sounded like what the Beatles might have sounded like had they had made music in the 80s together. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but to me, there's a lot of Beatles influence on this record, and it's done well. Many of the tracks on here are great, but the later added, I think, Dear God was a B-side to, I think, Grass, right? And it got flipped over at one point on some radio stations, and people went gaga over it, and rightly so. I mean, it's crazy to think that it wasn't originally on the album, but I mean, Dear God is a masterpiece. It really is. I mean, if you don't get goosebumps listening to that song, I don't know how you even have a soul. Sorry, but it's how I feel. I mean, it's just a great, great song. Number 19 is going to be Brotherhood by New Order. So I've always, I mean, I like this album a lot, and I'm a big New Order fan. It just so happens there's a lot of really good albums this year, and it's crazy to me that I have it this kind of low, but it's a little bit of an uneven New Order record, even if it is in the classic era. But even an uneven New Order album is still a great album. So, and this album is one of those rare instances where the album is backloaded, where I think like most of the really good songs are at the end of the album. Bizarre Love Triangle, All Day Long, Angel Dust, Every Little Counts are three of my favorites on the album. And of course, it has so many classic hooky bass lines on there. I've always made it very obvious that I'm Team Hooky. Number 18 is going to be Victoria Land by Coo Twins. So Victoria Land was fully written and recorded by Liz and Robin without Simon. So it's kind of like a Liz and Robin project, even though it's labeled Coo Twins, which, whatever, it's fine. It's really just guitars and vocals mostly. It's super mellow, super atmospheric. It really kind of gets overlooked because it falls between those epic 1985 EPs and Bluebell Knoll. But I do find it very interesting and charming. I mean, it's a very chill listen. Number 17 is going to be Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, the first solo record by former vocalist of Bauhaus, Peter Murphy. So this album kind of is a cross between Bauhaus and Dolly's Car. When Dolly's Car was the project he did with Mick Karn of Japan, right before doing this album. It's a really interesting record with different moods, different textures. Um, and Peter Murphy is, to me, one of the greatest vocalists of greatest voices of post-punk and alt-rock and all that, as always, and that's showcased on this record. And I got to get a John McGeoch mention whenever I can. He guest stars on this record for a couple of tracks also. Number 16 is going to be Chasing Shadows by Comset Angels. So after Comset Angels had that Jive Records fiasco, and those records had their moments, they were good, but it really was kind of a fiasco because they were really on a roll before that. With this album, the Comsats returned to their roots with what probably should have been the follow-up to Sleep No More, although this is in 1986. But great guitar tones, it's classic Comset Angels, big bass, monster drums by Mick Glacier. But again, no sales and gains. It's just really mind-boggling to me. They're such a fantastic band, and if you're not familiar with them, definitely check out the first 3 records, and this one also. Great band. Number 15 is going to be Black Celebration by Depeche Mode. In my opinion, this is the Depeche Mode's first truly solid record that plays cohesively anyway. Every single track on this record could have been a single. The title track, Fly on the Windscreen, Stripped, Question of Time, Question of Lust, New Dress, which is an excellent song, are all Depeche Mode classics. Tons of nostalgia attached to this one. Good times. Number 14 is going to be, even as a surprise to me, The Moon Looked Down and Laughed by Virgin Prunes. So I've had a bit of an epiphany of Virgin Prunes. Now I've had these records for 30 years or so, and I liked them then, but I always thought, like, as I got older, I thought I kind of outgrew Virgin Prunes because they're kind of outlandish and kind of controversial. And I kind of really thought that but after listening to If I Die, I Die for a previous episode, and then listening to this one, I'm shocked at how much these albums have aged wonderfully. Doing this is really giving me this is not music that you'd think you would like more as an adult, but I do. This record was released 4 years after If I Die, I Die, which is in those days was pretty much an eternity in the music business. They were just so creative and disturbing, yet they wrote these great songs. I mean, every song in the album is great. I'll single out like Alone, Love Lasts Forever, the title track, and Deadly Sins. But I mean, there aren't any bad songs in this album, just like on If I Die, I Die. And I'm just so surprised that I mean, look, I have this thing ahead of Black Celebration, Brotherhood, Skylarking. I mean, I really like it. And it's, I know it's kind of weird that I find it weird, but a lot of the music from like that category, I just kind of left back then, and then now I just put on, and I totally relate to it still at 50. It's just crazy to me. But anyway, number 13 is going to be Brighter Than a Thousand Suns by the Mighty Killing Joke. I mean, some fans see this as nighttime light. And that may be true, but what it lacks in aggression more than makes up for in grooves, killer guitar tones, and great melodies. Sanity is a great song. There's 4 or 5 great songs in this album. but the album's a great listen through and through. Number 12 is going to be The Color of Spring by Talk Talk. So for the third Talk Talk record here, Mark Hollis ditches any traces of like the new wave or synth pop that they were doing on the previous records, um, and heads just into this different kind of like soul and jazz territory. Um, and it's got to be one of the largest artistic leaps of the entire decade. Uh, and it really lays the groundwork for the rest of their career. And they only get more daring going forward. And you'll hear a bit more about that in later episodes. Number 11 is going to be Please by Pet Shop Boys. Yes, I do rank Please higher than Black Celebration and Brotherhood. I just think this is a near flawless synth pop record. I mean, it's got Divided by Two. I mean, Two Divided by Zero, West End Girls, Opportunity, Suburbia, and my personal favorite track from the album, Love Comes Quickly. And that's just side one. So on side two, you have Tonight is Forever, Violence on One. Great songwriting. And I've always had a soft spot for Neil Tennant's voice. It's just so unique and smooth as silk. I could sing the phone book. I would listen, and it's not like a super powerful or voice. I just find his voice very interesting and pleasant to listen to. And Please is a great record. On to the top 10. Number 10 is going to be the second entry in this countdown by Elvis Costello with King of America. So there's been times in my life where I've gotten pretty obsessed with this record. One of those deals where you get like it's stuck on an album and just listen to it for days on end. Um, this was Elvis really stripping it down to basics, and he was at the time kind of like he was a little bit obsessed with like American country and folk music at the time. And it has that kind of flavor to the album, along with some impeccable songwriting, great vocals, and beautiful lyrics. Um, Our Little Angel, Brilliant Mistake, Indoor Fireworks are just a few of the wonderful songs in this record. And Poison Rose is just his vocal performances might be his best ever vocal performance on any of his own songs. I'm not sure where this would rank amongst the rest of his discography for me. That would be a massive undertaking because he has so many albums, but this one is going to be damn near the top for me. Number 9 is going to be Permanent Sleep by Scottish band Lowlife. Now, this is a band that I really love to nudge people to check out. They were just so mysterious and ambient and fluttering. Vocalist Craig Lorenzen, often he's kind of compared to Ian Curtis whenever he's mentioned. He has that tonal quality, yes, but truthfully, he has a better command of his instrument than Ian had. And look, I'm a massive Joy Division fan. I'm not knocking Ian Curtis. I'm just not. But Craig's voice was awesome. Bassist Will Heggie was the original bassist for Coo Twins, like on the Garlands record. And after that, he left to form Lowlife. This album is excellent, and it's not even their best. So, number 8 is going to be Your Funeral, My Trial by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. To me, I think this is the first cohesive Bad Seeds record. It contains some of my all-time favorite Bad Seeds tracks. Stranger Kindness is amazing. The title track, Long Time Man, are just so good. And I think it's been stated actually that this is Nick's personal favorite album. Hard to argue with that one, right? Number 7 is going to be Forever Breathes the Lonely Word by Felt. Um, I adore this record. I mean, I really, I became hooked on it again while doing this whole 1986 thing. Um, I wanted to really kind of blow people's minds, put it up higher, but 1986 is just so top heavy. So here it lies, but it really is gorgeous. The crystalline guitar tones, the morose organ draped all over it, accompanied by Lawrence's Lou Reed-esque strut. I mean, there's only 8 tracks, and I think that's part of the beauty of it. Um, all the people that I like are those that are dead is just perfection. Uh, this album should be world renowned, but it's not, and it really should be. It's a great record. Number 6 is going to be Express by Love and Rockets. Um, I've always thought that Express should have been bigger than it was. I mean, the songwriting, the attitude, the accessibility. It's much more pop oriented than any of the Bauhaus records that they had worked on. Um, but I mean, if you haven't already checked out our Love and Rockets album ranking, I'll leave a link in the description for that. Um, you'll hear a lot more about Express in there too. Number 5 is going to be Infected by The. Um, so Infected was just so different sounding in 1986. It was aggressive yet thought-provoking, political, but yet sensual. Um, I personally think that Matt Johnson is a genius. Just my personal opinion. Um, and again, but for more on this great album and this great artist, I just did a the album ranking. I will put a link in the description for that also. Please check that out and let us know what your thoughts on it and rank the albums yourself and let me know. I'd love to know. Number 4 is going to be God's Own Medicine by The Mission. With the debut record from The Mission, Wayne Husey and Craig Adams literally pick up where they left off after leaving the Sisters of Mercy. Featured is their trademark 12-string guitars, haunting melodies, mystical lyrics, and lots of EBOs, which to me is always awesome. I love the EBO. The orchestral version of Garden of Delight is absolutely stunning. It really is, and a great vocal performance by Wayne on that. Um, this may be an unpopular opinion, but to me, the Mission are far better than anything the Sisters did after First and Last and Always. Just saying, it's my personal opinion. So we reached this top 3 that I had mentioned. Had a very, very hard time. So, I mean, this could be 1A, 1B, and 1C if you really want to look at it that way. But for the exercise of this top 25, number 3 is going to be Strange Times by the Chameleons. I can't, it's just crazy. I don't have this at 1, but just there's 2 other ones. So, thanks in part to the magic of the internet age, this record has only in the last 10 years started to get its due. But better late than never, right? It's dreamy and mysterious. It exists on the air throughout the room when listened to through a great set of speakers. It really is. It surrounds you. Um, it's a bit more mature than the first record. It's also more daring than the second record. Um, and tragically, this is the last proper record of their original run, which is heartbreaking. Tracks like Caution, the lush arrangement of Tears, the epic Soul in Isolation, Swamp Thing, which is one of the greatest guitar intros of all time, as well as the rest of the record. It's just a timeless classic album. Everyone should know the Chameleons and get to know the Chameleons. And since 2021 or so, they are still alive and well. They're touring, they're recording. I saw them just this year, and they're still amazing live. They have a single, 12-inch single, an EP. They just re-recorded old classics, and they're coming out with a brand new album of brand new material early in the next year. So if you're a Chameleons fan, check that out. Number 2 is going to be The Queen is Dead by the Smiths. Um, is there a more influential indie record? I don't know, but you'd be hard pressed to find one, I think. Just listening to this record, I mean, I listen to it all the time. I mean, I give myself breaks sometimes, but I listened to it again for this. And then this time I listened to it, and what struck me is that these were all young men in like their early 20s. I think Morrissey was the oldest one in the group, and I think he was 24 at the time. Johnny Marr and Andy Rourke were like 21. I mean, listen to that album. I mean, the songwriting it's just insane. Um, the Boy with the Thorn in His Side, Big Mouth Strikes Again, There's a Light That Never Goes Out, I Know It's Over. I mean, it's the whole album, but I mean, sometimes I take breaks from the Smiths for a little while, because there's not like this vast library of stuff. I mean, you have 4 albums and a ton of great standalone singles. Um, but whenever I come back to them, especially this album, it just sounds as fresh and as amazing as ever. Uh, the lyrics are beyond the age ages at the time. Johnny Marr's guitar playing is, I mean, usually when you're that young, you want to just beat the shit out of the guitar, but the guy playing, the nuance of his playing, where he decides not to play and where to play, and his chops is just of 21 or 22 years old or something. It's ridiculous. Um, I love the Smiths music. I always will. And as highly as I spoke of that album, it's number 2 because number 1 to me is going to be Tinder Box by Susie and the Banshees. You know, if you guys have been watching these things, you know how much I love the Banshees. So probably not a huge surprise that I put this here, but it was hard, man, because Queen is Dead and Strange Times are juggernauts. But Tinderbox, haunting, unnerving, beautiful, singular. Um, this record, on its original form, holds about 8 songs. Every single one of them is mesmerizing. Every member's performance on here is incredible. John Valentine Carruthers steps in on guitar and is amazing. I mean, that's saying something coming in after John McGeoch and Robert Smith. This record is probably Budgie's best drumming that he's done on any record. There's no other bassist like Severin. And Susie is an absolute powerhouse on this record. The production, the songwriting, the atmosphere, all magical to me. The Swedish Chill, This Unrest, Cities and Dust, Land's End, 99 Degrees, also on its settling and gorgeous. What this band were able to accomplish between the years of like 1980 and 1986 to me is the reason why they are probably my favorite band. They were 100% original. They never wore their influences on their sleeves. They always pushed the envelope without compromising their songwriting or their identity. They were the opposite of my other favorite bands because they were always confident and never whining. Uh, Tinder Box is possibly the greatest example of those traits. And the Banshees will always be my musical armor. So I love the Banshees. So there you go. That's 1986 here in a nutshell. So what do you think? I'd love to know. I mean, honestly, I love the back and forth with you guys in the comments. If you like the channel, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, hit the bell for notifications, and help the channel grow. The more viewers we get, the more I can justify doing more content, and I really enjoy doing it and kind of and having a back and forth with you guys. If you like the top 25 series, go back and check some of our album rankings, some specific artists that we have. Like I said, we just did I'm going to be posting that. Love and Rockets, I'll be posting that in the description too. That was done a while back, and we have a whole bunch of other ones on there too. So thanks a lot for joining us. We have a couple of weeks, I think, before Mr. Dr. Byrne and I will be doing the Psychedelic Furs album ranking. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Dead Street. See ya.